Hello, welcome. It's actually been, I think, 2 months since I've done one of these. Whew. So happy to be back.
It wasn't the same without you last month, Alicia. I'm not going to lie.
I was so sad not to be here. Well, welcome as always to our monthly training session. Obviously, you know Kevin and I, but we have a special guest joining us today. I'm going to introduce her in just a moment. For all of you that are just joining us, welcome. We are going to get started in a minute. We do want to give people a chance to get logged in. So while we're waiting for people to log in, as always, I'm going to remind you that you have a couple options to communicate with us and interact and get your questions answered throughout the session. Go ahead and open up that chat window and say hello. Let us know where you're joining us from. See, you guys already know it's all the pros in here. But I do want to remind you all that your important questions about the content can get lost in chat, especially when we have several hundred of you on here. So you want to make sure you put those Q&A questions into the Q&A box. We have the amazing Erin Boyd hanging out that's going to be helping answer questions today and help us as well. So, well, as we are starting to roll in here, we're about 2 minutes over the top of the hour. My name is Alicia. I'm the national speaker here at BombBomb. As always, I'm joined by Kevin, who is our client enablement manager. And then today we have a very, very special guest. We have Clarissa joining us. She works internally here at BombBomb, and she's kind of an expert on the topics that we're diving into today. So Clarissa, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our BombBomb community today?
Yes, hello, welcome. It's great to meet you. This is the first one of these that I have ever done, so it's been a little while for me as well, Alicia. But yes, my name is Clarissa Gidcombe. I've been at BombBomb for about 2 years now in a few different roles. Currently, I'm a senior mid-market BDR or business development rep. So I reach out to mid-market size companies. Before this, it was smaller companies on different levels for inbound and outbound leads. And I am really excited to be here and share some strategies that have worked well for me in my tenure here. So yes, I will also post my LinkedIn link in the chat too. Definitely connect with me there. And yeah, excuse me, I'm excited.
Well, yeah, so what percentage of your job revolves around your ability to set appointments successful?
I would say 110%. Okay. That is what I do all day, every day.
Well, Kevin, do you want to go ahead and jump in? It looks like it's slowing down there, and we'll kick off our content.
Yeah, I think now's a perfect time to do that. And also just one little note, I know a lot of you have been using the chat. Zoom has kind of changed a piece of this over the last couple of months where it automatically sets so that you're only chatting to us, to the panelists. So we're seeing the chat go crazy right now. However, if you see that little blue bar above where you type in the chat section, you can actually change that to panelists and attendees. Definitely change that, because the main reason that we love chat is so that you guys can also talk with each other. We're not going to see every chat that comes through, but we want to make sure that that community aspect is in this as well. So perfect. I can see some of those getting switched over, and we're excited that you all are here. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll. Obviously, you guys all know that we're talking about appointments, right? And appointment setting strategies, how personalization can really help you stand out in setting those appointments. But I'm kind of curious, for those of you that are here, what are the percentages of your business, right? We talked about how for Clarissa, as a BDR or a business development rep, her entire job is based on setting appointments. But where does most of your business come from? I'm actually going to launch this poll real quick, because I want to just hear from you guys. Where does your business come from? Do you get business from online leads? Are you getting business from past client referrals, from outbounding or cold calling, similar to some of the stuff that Clarissa has to do? I'm going to give this a little bit to just kind of digest and let you guys fill this out. We've already got over 40%. So thanks for jumping in and filling that out. And then I'm going to share some of the results with you guys. I think this is really interesting for a lot of different reasons, but I know for me specifically, when I started thinking about this theme this month, I immediately went to new leads and how am I meeting new people? How am I setting appointments? And I realized that I was a little bit narrow in that mindset of going, that's not the only time that it's important to set appointments, right? We're setting appointments all day, every day for so many different reasons. So I'm going to give this about 5 more seconds. If you have not voted on the poll yet, get that in. We're at about 70%. We've got a few more coming in. Okay, I'm going to end it right now. And let's share those with you guys so you can see. So you can see here, there's a pretty good percentage of past client referrals. That's amazing, 48%. Now, if we look at these and kind of dive in a little bit, outbounding and cold calling and online leads, those are going to be that new lead perspective a little bit more, right? So what's crazy is we're about 50-50 on this just from your guys' results, which I think is exactly the point that I was reminding myself as we were diving into this. So as we're talking through all this stuff, and hopefully we'll continue to remind you as we're going through all of this, do not feel like we're just talking new leads the whole time. Think about any time that you're reaching out. These are strategies. These are ways that you can continue to do that and benefit from it. So what are we going to cover today specifically? Well, first and foremost, we've had a really fun discussion. Clarissa has been an awesome expert in this avenue of setting up a framework that you can actually use. So you're not just winging it all the time. I know for me, sometimes that's how I just jump in of like, I'm just going to make it work. Well, let's give you some framework and kind of help you in that guidance so that you have a path to success when it comes to setting appointments. We're also going to talk a little bit more about how BombBomb is going to help you set and not only set, but hold more appointments, right? That's an important aspect of this. You can set millions of appointments. If they're not the right people, if they're not the right fits, they're not going to show up. And that does you no good to have tons of appointments taking up your calendar that aren't going to show up. So that's a huge important aspect that we'll continue to touch on throughout this as well. And last but not least, I'm really excited about this. Some of you may have already heard about this. I know we have sent out some communication, but we're going to cover a new feature that we've got here. Now, if you were with us last month, we talked about 7 things you didn't know you could do with BombBomb. Well, here's a brand new one that most of you are probably not going to know. So we like kind of bringing that in. So we've got a little bit of a feature set and also some strategies and some of those sort of things.
So we didn't even talk about video pay. We didn't even talk about our new feature.
Don't tease it yet, Alicia.
7 things you didn't know though, right? I mean, it didn't even make it.
Because it wasn't even launched yet last month. So this is really a brand new feature that internally we've been using for about a month now and playing with it. And it's really cool. And it's going to help directly with these appointment setting strategies. So I'm excited. So let's jump in here and let's talk about this framework. And let's kind of talk high level on these multiple parts. It's going to be a 3-part framework that we're building for you. And then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into each of those. But first and foremost is connection. Clarissa, I'm going to kind of toss it to you. When you think about like, okay, how do I connect with somebody? That's pretty pivotal when it comes to actually appointment setting, right? What are kind of your thoughts when you think of connection in general?
Yeah, so connection in general, it definitely depends on who you're connecting with and under what circumstances. So one of the things that I brought up when we spoke earlier was what you guys have in common. So how are you connecting? Is it via email? Is it via text? Is it via LinkedIn? Always finding the source of that connection and bringing those similarities together is a great way to start off the conversation.
Well, and I think an important piece of this as well is, something we talk about a lot here at BombBomb is digital pollution and this idea that, holy cow, we are bombarded in our inbox all the time with just junk. Let's be real. There's a lot of junk that's going on. That's why there's a whole junk mail section in your inbox, right? Because nobody wants it. So what if I actually have something real to offer you? How do I make that connection? How do I fight through that digital pollution, right? How do we kind of stand out in the inbox? We're going to talk about that in this connection section here.
Well, and I think it's important here that even if we're talking about whether you're trying to schedule an appointment with someone you already have a relationship with, to talk about a new product or to talk about a renewal or anything like that, or if it's a brand new person, you still have to get that level of re-engagement. No matter where you are in the relationship, if you want to set an appointment with them, you're going to have to make a connection with them. Likely the button on your website that says schedule some time with me isn't cutting it. So you really do have to make sure that they're feeling that human element.
Totally. There's a proactive nature in this for sure, right? You can't just sit back and hope something's working for you. So the second piece of this, after we've built that connection, is going to be kind of a discovery phase. Now we're going to dive into what exactly that means. So we may not go over that a ton on this slide itself, but this is the basically figuring out, does this make sense? Does this conversation make sense for us to continue to move forward with, right? And we'll kind of dive into some of the ins and outs of that. The third piece of this is next steps. This is something that I had to literally have printed into my brain when I got into sales in this facet. It's, again, I don't want to give too much away. I'm excited to dive into each of these, but this, I don't want to say is the most important of the three. All of three of these are really important aspects, but man, this is an easy one to forget and one that I think is going to be really important for us to touch on, which I'm excited about. So let's dive a little bit more into the connection side. Let's kind of break down these three pieces so that we can talk about it. Clarissa, this is something that I know you have specialized in because you do both of these in your current role and have done both of these over the several different roles that you've had here at BombBomb. But talk to me how you kind of look at these differently. What is inbound versus what is outbound, and how you kind of treat them a little bit differently.
Of course, of course. So as far as inbound and outbound goes, when I initially started, I was 100% inbound, then switched to 100% outbound, and now I am a mixture of both. So when I am differentiating between the two, inbound is obviously going to be hand raisers, people who are already having interest. It's just gauging that level of interest and making sure that you're pointing them in the right direction. Now, when it comes to outbound, that's where you really have to, I would almost say, hyper personalize a little bit more than inbound, because you need to educate them first on why they should be interested. So it's a little bit more of an uphill battle, but when you create that relationship and you do show that human element that comes forward that you are caring, that's going to be where it stands out from everything else.
Okay. So I think a perfect thing that you just said is some examples of what the difference is, right? So inbound is somebody basically already kind of tapping you on the shoulder saying, hey, I'm interested in this. Now, for those of you that are in like the real estate mortgage space, an example of that would be somebody that goes on Zillow or Trulia or something like that. Now, those are hard because they're not tapping you directly on the shoulder, right? So there is that element of that hyper personalization that Clarissa just brought up, of where you've got to make sure they understand why you are reaching out, but they have kind of said, yes, I do want more information about this property or about buying or about selling or whatever that choice is. I mean, if you're on a sales team or a direct sales team, so for like BombBomb here, right? When people sign up for our free trials, that's them saying, hey, I want to know about BombBomb. I am raising my hand saying I'm interested. I want to look deeper. So that's a little bit of a warmer lead in that sense. Outbound is always the part that scared me in sales. I'm not going to lie. This is the part that got me going, oh, geez, how do I do this, right? I mean, this is you directly finding people and cold outreaching. They're not expecting to hear from you at all or know anything about BombBomb. So one of the things you mentioned is, Clarissa, is kind of warming them up. You mentioned this before as well. What do we have in common? Obviously, that's important on both facets, but I would love to hear a little bit of your perspective on, if you are outbounding, if you are reaching out to people that don't know you, how do you pick who to select? What do you look for? And then how do you find what you do have in common with them so that there is that common ground?
Well, that is a great question. Yes, great question. So we have a lot of nifty tools to find out what fits perfectly into our target customer here at BombBomb. But the types of personas I reach out to and the reasons I will reach out to them is going to be basically who I am, who they are, and what I can do to help based on current things that I've done in the past. So other customers that are similar to them that I've helped and we've seen success with, definitely want to be the Albert to the Batman. I don't want to be the hero to anyone's story. I want to be the person that helps them get to the result. So I will always champion past heroes to make sure I make that new connection the right way, if that makes sense.
That's a really interesting point. Yeah, Alicia, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I think for to really like kind of target in to help our customers, like what does a first outbound video like that sound like, right? How do you introduce yourself and make a connection and kind of, identify that what we have in common in a brief video without it seeming like every other spammy LinkedIn sales message that we get, because we all get them, right? Whether it's in our inbox, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Facebook Messenger, we get those, messages that have my name at the top. And then I can tell that they've sent it to every single person on LinkedIn saying you'd be a good fit. So what does that sound like? What does that initial outbound introduction sound like?
Well, that is another great question. There's so many different avenues to take this. First off, the LinkedIn connect and pitch. we could have a whole webinar just on this. I definitely suggest against it for at least the first touch, and making it more so about, again, what are you have in common on LinkedIn? That you're both on the same space. You might have some common connections. So making it more about starting the relationship before you offer your help or your services. So that's what I would say as far as LinkedIn goes. Now, when it's cold outbound for just plain emails, what it will sound like from me is I'll obviously introduce myself, and then I'll say, this is Clarissa from BombBomb. The reason I'm reaching out, making it about them. So your team over at ABC Software is doing great with these certain topics. Here at BombBomb, we help people like you or certain sales teams like yours to increase these 3 areas. If any of these relate, let me know. I would love to connect with you. So you give them that soft call to action, and then you put the ball in their court with it. So that's typically how I'll do the 2 different approaches with that.
I love it. Well, and this session today is about setting appointments, right? We're not talking about closing the deal on LinkedIn or closing the deal. So I love that soft first introduction is, again, it's about making the connection. It's not about pushing them all the way down to the end of your process. It's about making the connection.
Well, and I think a great thing around that too, just to reiterate, is so much of what you said, Clarissa, is about the relationship, is about them. I think one of the tendencies that you can get into when you're in any sort of sales environment is how is this going to help me? You start thinking about me, right? Like, I need this deal. I've got to close this before the end of the month. I got in that mindset when I was doing sales. So I know I have felt that personally. And so it's sometimes hard to forget that I'm reaching out for them because I have something that can help them. In fact, I was just in a meeting this week talking with some people about sales and these different mindsets. And he brought up something that was really interesting. He asked us all a question. Hey, when you were kids, what did you used to trade back and forth? And so we started talking like, baseball cards, football cards. Somebody brought up pogs. Somebody even said they traded rocks, which that was funny to me, but I was like, okay, you do you. But what a great mindset of, I have something to offer. I have something of value that can help you. This is not me trying to push you or bug you or just get your money. It's, wow, I really have something that can help. And thinking of that trade was a really interesting thing for me. So when you're thinking about the recipient, when you're thinking about the relationship, man, that makes it so much more human, right? It's not just, hey, I'm Kevin from X company. Can I sell you this? It's, hey, I spent some time researching you, understanding you and your company. We've helped a lot of companies like you guys with these issues. Would that be worth a conversation for you? And it really does allow them to have some decision making in that process, right?
Exactly.
We just got a question in chat, which I love, because I know that our sales team does this, but Mike wanted to know, for an intro video, would you do a screenshot video with their website in the background?
I was actually going to bring this up. Yes, especially on LinkedIn, because I don't know how many of you guys get hit up with in-mails that are like, Alicia, like you said, where it's just, this could be to anyone. But if you do the screen recorder and you pull up their profile, that is only for them. You can make sure that that is only for that person. So that definitely speaks volumes. And if someone were to do that to me, that would stand out above everything else.
Yeah, 100%.
So yes.
Yeah, that's great. Now let's dive a little bit deeper into some elements of this. I think there can be a tendency when you're trying to reach out and set appointments, at least for me, where it's like, I want to spend my time on the best prospects, on the best people, right? What is your general rule of thumb, or how many touches do you reach out to somebody? I know there's a lot of different ideas and stats, and Alicia, I know you had shared a stat with us as well that I want you to share with them too, but what is your philosophy on that? How many times do you reach out? How many times do you continue to touch base when you're trying to set some appointments with people?
Well, that is going to depend a lot on, actually, I would say I reach out probably at least 15 times, if not more. And that's going to be a mixture of LinkedIn, email, calls, and that's honestly probably on the lower end. I've had a few where it's been upwards of 45 touches within, I'd say, 2 to 3 months. So it just depends. Typically, and I know Alicia's stat with this is a lot of salespeople give up after, what was it, the 5th touch?
So 80% of sales require at least 5 follow-ups after that first touch. and 40% of salespeople quit after the very first no response touch. So you have this massive gap where we know that 80% of people on the other side, the humans on the other side of your reach out, need more exposure to you, need more, they need more time to decide whether they like you, whether they trust you or not. And yet 40% of salespeople are giving up before that person had a chance to even decide if they like you.
Which to me, it's funny. I hear that 40% give up after the first touch, and Clarissa going, I usually touch base at least 15 times, right? Like, holy cow, right? How do we find kind of the balance in this? I'm not going to sit here and tell any of you that are watching this, you have to reach out this number of times and you'll find success every time. It's not a formula like that. What I want you to hear is it's going to take a lot of touches. It's going to take more than you think, or if you're anything like me in sales, more than you're probably even comfortable with to a certain degree. I don't like being a nuisance. I don't like bothering people. I was always concerned about that. But I didn't think about it from their perspective as well. If I have value to bring, if I have information, if I have something to trade them, I want them to hear that because it's going to benefit them, right? It's not just about me getting the sale and bugging them kind of thing.
Exactly. And I do have a story with that too. I had an outbound sequence that I was working last year. And the very last touch, I think it was a 45-day sequence, I'd sent what we refer to as a breakup email, where it's like, if you haven't responded by now, you probably won't. I don't want to keep bothering you. And then, of course, I'll bother them in like another month or two. But, but I got a response on that, and that turned into quite a hefty deal. And it was a great persona that finally reached out. And I mean, if you think about it, people are busy. Like, they're not going to, unless they're in buying mode, which like 80% of the time they're not, it's going to take a little bit of time to build that relationship first before they see the need. So stay persistent.
That is a huge point. It takes time to build the relationship before they see the need. Oh my gosh. Why did I not put that on a quote on a slide? That's so important to remember. It takes time to build that trust, right? I mean, how often do you walk into a store? Maybe some people are a little bit more. I am a slow buyer. I will tell you all that. I don't walk into a store and be like, great, love it, I'm buying it in one trip usually. For me, I need to research. I need to understand. I need to spend time building that and building that trust with the person, the salesperson that's there, right? I have not bought products just because of the salesperson. I've also bought things I didn't really care about that much because I love the person. So just some really exciting stuff on that. Another thing, the last thing I want to touch on with touches specifically is you got to break it up and change things up. You're not just going to send 15 emails to a person or 10 emails to a person. What are kind of some of the typical things? You've mentioned a LinkedIn a couple times, Clarissa, but what are some of the different touches you use?
Yeah, LinkedIn, calls, and emails are my top three. Now, obviously, if that's the nature of where I'm at in the process, if you can do any physical touches, obviously COVID permitting, as far as like sending out any mail, anything that stands out, if that's in your process, definitely keep that too. But one thing that I will do is I'll connect the touches. So for instance, on LinkedIn, I'll send them a video or a message saying, hey, I sent you an email. In the email, I'll say, hey, I'm going to call you. When I call, I'll leave a message saying, hey, I sent you an email. So it brings everything around. And even some people argue against sending voicemails. I say do it. That way they get used to your voice. That way when they see your video and they hear your voice, they see your name, or if they hear you call, they're like, yes, I know who you are. Like I've had all these touches beforehand. So I would always say connect the touches.
Awesome. I love that. And we've already kind of talked about following up on the touches. You just touched on that, reference other touches you've had with them. So I think that's really important. I wanted to show you guys a quick example. Elise Archer is a client that's been with BombBomb for a long time. And I wanted to show you because she specifically has seen some victories from this directly. So I'm going to show you initially a first video that she actually sent to somebody she was trying to reach out. And then she also sent us a testimonial of just how this worked out, how this system played out. And I want you to hear that from somebody that's not us and just how she did that, how it worked for her, so you can kind of hear that success. So this first video I'm going to play for you real quick here is an actual video she sent to a client, again, trying to connect, trying to build that touch with them.
Hey, Kim, it's Elise Archer. Hopefully this helps you put a face with a name. You've probably gotten a couple of messages from me about connecting. I work with Chad and some of the other guys over at FIG and been doing some good work that's been getting them some really solid successes. And so I'm actually going to be up in your area on Friday, April 7th for a trip. Wanted to see if we might be able to get together for like 15 minutes in your office just while I'm up there to explore if and how I might be able to help your group in the same way. Again, not really sure if it's a good fit yet, but figured if I'm up there, it might make sense for us to go ahead and connect.
So she found what she had in common. She's touching base with them. She's letting know, hey, I'm also reaching out because I'm going to be in your area, right? So she's finding that connection.
Hey, Kim.
So I also want to play, this is her talking about that client that she reached out to and kind of how that situation worked out for her.
I was reaching out to a client who had been a referral to me by one of my existing clients. And so I thought this was going to be a really easy guy to reach and to schedule a conversation with. I already had a really warm referral from one of my top clients, and he wouldn't take my call. And so I was calling and emailing and reaching out on social media, and he actually stood me up on this one scheduled call that we had. And so I pursued this guy for probably 8 to 9 months, and I got zero response. And it wasn't until I sent him a bomb video from the airport. I was coming home from a mastermind, and I remember being frustrated that he hadn't taken my calls. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to give this one last shot. And I filmed a bomb video, and I was super casual. It wasn't even that professional. But I just let him know that I really wanted to meet him, and that I would love to try to find a time to connect. And I was sorry we hadn't been able to connect yet. And literally within a couple of hours, I got a response back from him. And he basically said, look, the fact that you've been so persistent and that you try to reach me in a unique and different way, like, I'm willing to have a conversation with you. And he went on to become one of my very best and very favorite clients. He referred me to a ton of his team members, and to some other really high profile people in his industry who went on to become my clients.
So it's really interesting. I kind of cut off, just for time's sake, I cut off parts of her testimonial, but she starts this video out with saying, I can attest over $100,000 in business to one video that I sent. And so that's it. She reached out to this client with a simple video. She persevered. She said 8 to 9 months she had been reaching out to this person, right? And the reason he thought it was interesting is because she persevered and because she was creative. She did something new, video, right? She built that relationship. She allowed that time for trust. And it turned into not only his business, but referrals and more business, and a lot that came to her business directly.
Well, I think as we're moving into this next section, talking about the discovery and what goes in there, I think it's important to remember that you are selling to a person, but you're also selling to a window of time. So at the point in time when they connect with you, they might be just starting to be curious, but they're not ready to buy. So I think that's also a helpful thing as we move into discovery here, to remember that your persistence matters, because they may not be ready at that exact moment. They're still just dipping their feet in the water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. We just had a funny chat come in that said, if I was contacting a potential client for 8 or 9 months, they would take out a restraining order on me. See, I think it all comes back to value, right?
Yes.
You don't want to just be, hey, checking in, just checking in. How are you? It's always providing value, always making sure that they know what you have to offer or what's going to benefit them. It's not about you all the time, right? So just keep that in mind, Campbell, but I think that's a really funny way to put that. So let's jump into the second section here. So we've talked about connection. Discovery is the next one here. Clarissa, this is something you really brought to my attention as well, kind of the fit versus not fit. How do you typically go about that process once you've made a connection with somebody and kind of deciding that?
Yes, this is probably one of my favorite steps. I know you mentioned next steps was very important, but I think this is crucial for next steps because this is going to be the root of everything. So in the discovery, finding the fit versus not fit, this is where, I know you mentioned this, Kevin, the other day when we were speaking about it. This is where salespeople, you have the power. You can decide whether or not this is going to be a good opportunity to pursue for both people. And what you have to do is just present your truth to them and lay everything out on the table. Don't try to, hide anything because you're worried about making the sale, because in the long run, if that happens, you're going to sour a relationship, which could have saved you so much time and stress as if you would have just let it go in the first place. So knowing what works best for you, what type of clients that would be the best fit, and just overall being helpful and resourceful for your leads. So
one of the things you mentioned when we were talking about this, Clarissa, that I thought was really interesting was you said we've basically narrowed it down to 3 things that we have to determine during the discovery phase. I'm not going to make you say these are the 3 things you have to know, but I bring that up more for you guys that are on this webinar of getting that simple. What are the things that we have to know? And I don't want it to be a laundry list of 15 things, right? That's going to be hard to get if you do a discovery call or in an email or however that comes back to you. But think about that. What are the must-haves for me to determine if this is a good fit or not? Now, the other thing that I think is really interesting as well is even if it's not a good fit, that doesn't necessarily just mean that this is worthless, right? What do you typically do, Clarissa, once you've determined, okay, they may not need this? What steps do you have from there? How do you continue to work with this person or find benefit from that?
Of course, and I actually have an example of this that happened probably last week, if not the week before. But it's always about the relationship. You know, in our type of selling, it's all about who you know, and referrals are definitely huge. Obviously, the poll showed that from earlier. So the other day, I had someone, I reached out to them. They started a free trial, but they were looking for a mass text sending for their employees. So when I got him on the phone, I was like, well, that's definitely not what we do. Did you have any use for video? And he's like, no, not at this time. I don't see this being an option. So what I did was I searched for employee texting softwares, and I sent him a list. I sent him a video, said, hey, these are 3 of the examples that I think would be best for what you were looking for. None of it was bomb. It didn't even relate to video, but I sent it to him. I sent him the options. He thought it was amazing that I would go out of my way to give him resources that didn't even give me any value. And not sure yet if that's gonna be fruitful as far as referrals, but that's part of the game though. So definitely just building that relationship and making sure that you're fostering that in a positive way is going to give positive outcomes.
And if you treat everyone well and with respect and going, hey, I'm not going to waste your time either, right? Maybe they know somebody who can use your product or can see benefit from that as well, right? So you're
Exactly.
kind of building up your pipeline as well. So let's talk a little bit. I know this is something I had to learn and more of just a concept that I'm sure you all know to a degree as well, but a no is almost as good as a yes. Of course, we want the yes. We want them to love the product and buy the product every single time. But a no is way better than no answer at all, right? I mean, that allows you to kind of continue to move on and release some of that. So these are all important aspects of that discovery phase. Clarissa's story there of saying, hey, this was not a good fit for them. That is so important for her to learn now, rather than wasting 10 to 15 touches on somebody who was looking for something completely different than what BombBomb provides, right? That's important to learn, right? So you know how to follow up or not follow up or create that plan moving forward.
Oh, and I definitely learned this the hard way back when I would set appointments for you, Kevin, and some other people on the inside sales teams, is if I would send something that was definitely the wrong kind of client, they were very nice, but they were like, you know, they said this when you talked to them, this wasted everyone's time. So in the future, make sure that you know that we are not that kind of software. We don't do this, and you'll save everyone some time. So not Kevin specifically, but there were other people that made sure I knew that.
Oh, I'm sure I was always very kind with my response. The last thing I want to touch on with discovery real quick here, and then we're going to do next steps, and then we're going to jump onto some of those features as well and how BombBomb is going to help you guys out, is timing, right? Sometimes I think it can be as simple as either it fits or it doesn't fit for them. And Clarissa's example is a perfect example of, yeah, this does not fit for them, right? They are not looking for this. However, it may just be man, we love this, but now's not the right time. How do you typically work out that process to make sure, hey, we don't lose touch? I want to be there when it is the right timing, but what's your process through those steps, Clarissa?
Of course. Well, and that comes with just being upfront and asking the right questions. Now, especially when we reach out to Outbound, there's, I think I mentioned before, maybe it's probably less than that percent chance that they're actually in buying mode for the tool that we are providing. So understanding that, seeing where they're at, seeing what other projects are on the table for them now. And what I'll do is I'll say, you know what, I definitely want to keep in touch. I want to be your person that you think of when you think of video messaging. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out at this time. And if this isn't something that you're looking into until, the third quarter, I will reach out, every other month if I run across something that I think would benefit you in your process, and go from there. So making sure you're still reaching out and adding value, but knowing, okay, you said Q3, I'll reach out in Q3 to restart that conversation.
Perfect. So just being transparent. Yeah.
Exactly. Which is a perfect segue into next steps, because you need to make sure that you follow up with these people, right? If they say call me in 6 months and you don't call them in 6 months, well, that's on you, right? So I think that this next steps is a really great way to wrap up the strategy here, because if you're in a position like, you know, Clarissa, your next step is a handoff. If you're a real estate agent or, you know, an insurance agent that's booking your own appointments, your next step is going to be the actual moving them into your sales funnel. So I think this first piece here is really, really important, which is that you always want to let them know what the next step is. If you've connected with them, if you have had a quick discovery call, you realize it's a good fit and you've set an appointment, great. Then you send the confirmation video, which we've done tons of training on, that makes sure that people actually hold your appointments. I think it was trying to remember the stat. Was it like a 56 to 76% hold rate on the video confirmation? Kevin,
I don't know that number specifically, so I don't want to speak to it. I never wanted to lead in a different direction than
I don't have the stat at my fingertips, but we see a massive lift when you send the video to confirm that appointment. Or, you know, if you're talking about handing off to the next person. Clarissa, you guys use video for this. I know that you know, isn't always necessarily part of the process, but talk to me about how you bridge that gap for the next steps, whether it's the handoff or whether it's the setting up for down the pipeline.
Of course. Yeah. Well, and actually it's great that you mentioned that as far as hold rates. When I was in the inbound role, I would always send out day before appointment videos. And I think my hold rate was around 85 to 90%. Now I'm sure my hold rate is probably 90 to 95%. And I send those as well. What I'll do after the call, especially with a handoff, is I will CC the person that I'm handing it off to, and I'll send a call recap video. So I'll get off the call and I'll say, hi, Alicia, it was great speaking with you. Here are some of the points that we touched on. We're excited to meet with you on the appointment time and date. I've included Danny in this email as well. Reach out if you have any questions. I'm sure he'll be reaching out to introduce himself to you. So sending that, Danny will usually send a video right after that too. And it reduces the meeting anxiety as well. So it's a great way to follow up.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a great opportunity as well to think, I know we've been talking more as a company, how we do this, since we have different roles. If you're a one-man show and doing this yourself, or one-woman show, this is a perfect opportunity to be like, awesome, I'm excited to meet at this time, right? Give some of the specifics. I know one of the things we determined is the most important with next steps is be specific with that, right? Clarissa, you and Alicia both kind of mentioned this earlier, of if I've said, hey, I'm going to follow up at this date, I don't have to feel bad for following up at that date, right? We've both agreed on that and determined that it was a good step moving forward here. So whether it's I'm handing off to another person at the company to take on and they are following up, or whether it's you setting up your own appointments, following up from that conversation, the discovery is really, really important to make sure that you're determining the right next steps and that you're both on the same page, that you both have the specific expectations that are coming up next. So awesome. So that's kind of the basic framework there that we want to give you guys. Connection is the first piece. Discovery is the second piece. Then the next steps are going to be the third piece. So we've covered that framework. Let's dive into some of the pieces of way BombBomb's going to help you so we can get to that new feature, because I know people are excited to hear about that. And Alicia already teased it a little bit. They're called video pages, so get excited. So first and foremost, let's cover a few things that you may know real quick, and then we'll jump into that piece real fast as well. BombBomb tracking. This is going to be absolutely pivotal in setting appointments, in following up with people at the right time. Clarissa, what are maybe one or two ways that you really use the tracking that's helped you a ton in setting appointments that you're working on?
Of course, it's that live tracking. As soon as I see someone open and play the video, I am calling them right away because they're obviously watching it somehow. I can't tell you how many appointments that I've booked because of that. But then also the other point is going to be, if you see that it's being forwarded, it's being opened quite a few times, I'll do a screen recorder of the actual notification itself and say, hey, you know, not to be too creepy, but it looks like you guys are having this conversation. I would love to be included and to be a resource, answer any questions that I can. And that has actually gotten more meetings as well, or it's pointing me in the right direction, saying, no, I'm not looking into it just yet, but I do want to follow up. So it's getting that next touch point, that next response.
Okay, so you used kind of the trigger word there that I want to bring up and address. Every time I talk about tracking, one word comes up from somebody, and it's, isn't that creepy? Isn't that weird? Isn't that creepy? It's always this creepy feeling. I would love to hear, and Alicia, I know you probably have something to throw in on this as well. So whoever wants to jump in, what have been your experience when you do follow up and acknowledge the tracking and let them know and show them that sort of stuff? What kind of responses are you getting from people?
Well, for me, I haven't had a negative response with it. Most people tend to be impressed with the follow-up and the level of persistence and basically attention that you're giving to them. Now, if you definitely can go overboard if you're, if they watch your video and you're calling them 5-6 times in a row, I would probably not do that. But I mean, we live in a creepy world. Like, there's so many different tracking things. I know Alicia will probably touch on this, but if that's like, you're reaching out to help them. So if that comes off as creepy, then it might not be the best fit.
Yeah, I love this because, we hear this from people all the time when I'm training people, and I say, like, if you've been chasing someone and you can't get them to take your phone call, but you get that push notification on your phone that just said they watched your video, you should call them in that moment. And the pushback is that, isn't that weird? But I already saw someone in chat, someone said Google knows more, right? We all know that this is a real thing. I could talk about a milk frother right here because my phone's in range. And when I go on Facebook or Amazon, they're going to advertise a milk frother to me. This happens all the time, okay? It's not really that creepy. And I love what Clarissa said. People are impressed by how much attention you are paying them. That's the thing. When I was in sales before I was in this role, that was my experience. When you get the tracking notification and you call someone, the response is usually, wow, you're on it. That's impressive. So I think it's really, really key. We do have some people asking about the tracking pages here. So what you're seeing here, the screenshot, is actually mobile tracking that Kevin has here. He also pulled up just here the tracking where you can see it in your Chrome extension, as well as you can always go to your dashboard. And as soon as you log into your BOM account, you have live tracking feed there. You can turn on push notifications from your mobile app so that you get tracking notifications there that just pops up on your screen, letting you know who opened it. So there's lots of places where you can really, really dive into the tracking. But I think the most important thing to leave you guys with here when it comes to tracking and appointment setting is that the tracking is there not to let you know when you've sent an email to 500 people that you can watch compulsively how many people opened it. The tracking is there to help you, especially in these one-off situations, because it lets you know who is paying attention to you when they're paying attention to you, which is the best chance that you have of scheduling an appointment, is talking to them when they are thinking about you. He's got it right there. Right person, right time. If you want to set an appointment with someone, call them while they are watching your video. It works.
It's pretty shocking when I'm literally watching somebody and all of a sudden my phone rings and they're on the other end of the phone. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm staring at you right now. But it's helping with emotional connectors as well. Clarissa talked about using stories earlier, finding the connection through stories and successes. If you can get on a deeper level of just this is what we do, we're now connecting to different parts of their brain. They're going to remember you more effectively, right? There's a lot of different levels to this. One great question that Meredith just threw in the chat that I think is really good to address. She asked, what are good analytics for number of opens or number of views or those sort of things? It's going to vary a lot depending on who you're reaching out to, but just a general number that I usually use is across the world, every email sent, the average open rate hovers right around 20%, maybe a little higher than 20%. If you're at that range with your emails that you're sending out, you are doing great. That's really good because we have to have the right expectations, right? You're not going to get a 50% open rate on emails that you're sending out. It's just not going to happen that high. But yeah, go ahead.
Evan, I think it also really matters what type of thing you're sending, right? Because if you're sending a market update to your entire database. If you're in real estate or mortgage, if you're sending a market update to your entire database every month, you're not going to see as consistently high open rates. When you're talking about, for example, prospecting to an inbound lead, and you're sending them a personal video back, you can expect a much higher open and play rates on those types of videos, because it's specific to that person and to their needs. So I think you got to be careful with your expectation, because your open rate for a one-to-one video is never going to be, or is always going to be better than your open rates for mass sends. I did see a really great question there in chat on this before we move on to the next section here, but someone wanted to know, if someone doesn't open your email or video, do you resend it? And I think that's a really great question. I don't know what you guys do in your process, Clarissa, but I would say we usually teach to try something else, right? If the subject line, if they never opened your email in the first place, the subject line probably wasn't right, or maybe it got lost. I don't think sending the exact same video or email over and over again is necessarily a good idea. You might need to switch up your technique there, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Clarissa, when someone doesn't open your email.
Yeah, of course. There's a few different ways to go, and this is all going to be dependent on who it is that you're reaching out to. So if it's someone that I've spent a lot of time personalizing this, that I know this is a great use case, if we can just get on the phone, I will send a reply email. So I'll reply to the email that I just sent, and I'll say something along the lines of, what are your thoughts on this? Or I'll shoot another video pointing back to that original video. So that is when I won't necessarily resend the exact same video, but I'll reference the video that I sent before. Now, again, if this isn't something where, if it's not something that's super personalized, then I'll send a different piece to see if that stands out, because I'm trying to reach out to certain pains or offer certain values. So if that one's not playing, then I'll do something different. So that's typically where I'll differentiate those.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really, really good advice there. So the tracking is number one. Obviously, you can find that on the BombBomb mobile app on your phone if you're just wanting to do that, or you can see if you have the dashboard in your account, if you have our Chrome extension, our Microsoft Edge extension, it's going to be tied into that. The one places you won't see it is if you are integrating with a CRM. Not all CRMs are going to bring that in, but typically they will have their own tracking. Yeah. So keep an eye on that. Most softwares nowadays are going to provide something along that line. So just know that tracking in general is going to be very, very helpful.
And BombBomb tracking talks to each other throughout the entire BombBomb ecosystem, because I saw a question about that in chat. If you've recorded a video in your Google Chrome extension or in your BombBomb web platform, you can still have those notifications sent to your phone. The tracking talks to each other over the entire BombBomb ecosystem. So you always have that information regardless of where you sent it, unless of course it was in an external CRM that doesn't use our tracking. Anywhere
that BombBomb sends, you will be able to find that tracking. So that's great. The second piece I want to touch on, and then we'll jump into that brand new feature, but we actually talked about these in video call to actions. We've had some Q&As come in about what are the best call to actions? How do we do that? This is an amazing way to do it. Within BombBomb, you can now create in-video CTAs or call to actions, and it's going to show up as a little bar at the bottom of your video. The great part is they click play. Within 3 seconds at the beginning of the video, this bar pops up. So now they're watching you, they're engaging in the video, and they can also see that clickable link that's at the bottom. Now, how are you going to make this? Well, you're actually going to build it after you record the video. Before you actually save the video, there's an option to create the in-video CTA. And it's very, very simple. All you have to do is copy and paste the link over of where you want to drive them, and then write in and type in what do you actually want the title to say on the banner itself. So this is a great example. This is an account exec that we have here at BombBomb. Schedule a meeting, right? That's a great call to action. He's linked his online calendar to that link itself. I'd imagine, Clarissa, you probably use that a lot, I would guess. Is that right?
Yes, also with the new feature that we're going to be bringing up shortly, it's taken over my schedule of meeting CTA, but I will include any sort of content pieces or any questions that they have, like especially if you want to direct them to, a blog post on your website. That is a great place to put it. Or if you need to include someone else's calendar, or an interesting article that you thought that they would like, or your LinkedIn profile, anything like that that can add value, I'll include it in the CTA.
I love that. Provide value, provide value, provide value. We cannot say it enough, right? I mean, so much of this is the relationship, but we also want to make sure that I like to think about it this way. Every video I send, every email I send is training somebody on if they're going to open or watch another one. So I need to make sure that everyone stands alone because I can't assume that they've seen all my other ones or if I've sent any other ones, right? We've been having some comments about, B2C, if I'm working directly with a client instead of an actual business. Really, a lot of the principles are exactly the same, right? You're doing the same, you're building the connection, you're discovering if it's a good fit. What are our next steps? You're still doing these same pieces, but make sure you're providing value so that no matter which one they open, they've got something. So I love that. I've even had a client who has sent me some videos with a call to action of just, hey, I thought this would make you laugh today. And I click on it and it's just some like goofy YouTube video, right? I'm not saying do that when you're just trying to get somebody's attention, but it made me smile. It made me want to open and watch the next one that I got from that person because I didn't know what to expect, right? So use that to bring joy, bring that value. You can do call to actions, you can do scheduling links or just added content and those sort of things. So let's jump in because I know we've got about, oh yeah, go ahead, Alicia.
I just want to address a couple questions because I've seen the same question come through on chat about the CTAs. We have some people wanting to know why you have to add a CTA to each video and it doesn't save every single video, which is a great question, but we want you to be able to build a unique CTA for each video. So that, like Kevin said, you might not always want the schedule a meeting button to be at the bottom of your video. And the video call to action gives you the ability to customize it for each video. Now, if you're using the same video over and over again, if it's an evergreen, say it's you're a lender and it is your automatic lead response for someone requesting, information from your website. That video, if you're using the same video over and over and over again, it's going to have the same CTA on it. But for each new unique video, you do need to put a unique CTA on there if you want, because that's the functionality that we really wanted to highlight. But leading us into the feature, if you want to have a static CTA on your video page where your videos live, that's what the BombBomb video page is for. So Kevin, tell them about the BombBomb video page.
First off, this thing's awesome. Our team has worked really hard and listened to a lot of notes from you guys, our clients, on what do we want. So what is the video page? I want you to think about this. Whenever anybody clicks play on your video from now on, this is what surrounds the video itself. So it's not just a blank landing page. There's now a lot of pieces that you can personalize. And I'm going to show you exactly where to do this in your account. But I want to point out some of the pieces here. One, our logo, right? I have a BombBomb logo here, but this is not going to say BombBomb when you send out your videos. This is your opportunity to put your logo up in there, right? So that they see your company, they see your branding. Maybe you are a realtor and you work for Remax, right? You pay for that logo. Use it. Let's make sure it's there. But what Alicia was just talking about here is you also are going to have another call to action button in your header. For those of you that are asking, I just want the same link in all of my videos. Oh, it's here. It's a little different than what you may have expected, but it is here. You can now do the exact same sort of call to action. Like Clarissa was saying, this is kind of taken over her calendar link, right? That calendar link needs to be on everything she's sending because of what her job requires. So find what that is for you. You get to personalize the text, you get to put the link behind it, and that will always live up here. And then the other new additional pieces, and then I'll jump into the account and show you where you guys can find this and how you can personalize it, is you want to have your account information as well, right? Your picture, whatever that is. If it's a business picture, if it's a fun picture, I have a picture of me with my son. So however you want to represent yourself, that's great. It's also going to have your contact info. Now, the great part is I only have LinkedIn on here, but you can put your social media links. It gives somebody an opportunity to learn more about you before they have to click reply, right? We all talked about how it takes time to build trust. I don't know what their process is going to be on that. I want to give them a lot of different options. That's what these are. You can let them know what company you work for so they can maybe look that up. You can let them know what your social media is, what your website is, whatever you decide you want to put in there. You have the ability to do that. And now it automatically loads that in and pulls a lot of this from your profile for every video that clicks play. This is really, really cool.
So cool, because now you can have your static button built in that you want, right? You don't have to pay a designer to do this. Kevin's going to walk you through, but you could have a static button that says the same thing, right? Schedule a call, learn more, whatever it is that lives on your video page that will always be there, that will link to your calendar or link to your website. And then you still have that option for your unique CTA for a unique video. So we solved all of your problems in the last 2 minutes.
Just everything in one fell swoop. So let's show you real quick. I know we've got about 5 minutes left, and we do want to cover some more of these questions if we get to it. But let's talk about how do you actually find this in your account. So if you go to bombbomb.com, log into your account with whatever your email and password is that you set up, then you're going to hover over your name and picture up in the top right. I'm going to move this just in case our videos are in the way. That gives us this drop down, and you can see there's a new option here that says video page. So all you have to do is click on that, and that's going to take us directly, it does take us directly into it. Now, the great part is you have a live preview as you're building this video page. So you can see, how does it look? Do I like it? Is this right? Is it not? But basically this menu on the left side is going to be all the options. So just slowly scroll down, make the adjustments as you need. And you can even toggle things on and off. You can see if I don't want my logo for whatever reason, I can turn that off. But you can come in, I can replace it or upload a new one if you don't have one in there. As I scroll down, we want your brand colors, right? And we don't just want, oh yeah, red is one of my colors. No, I guarantee there's a very specific hue of red that you use for your branding. Great, bring that in. We give you multiple options, whether it's the RGB codes, right? Whether it's the HSL percentages, or this is the one that I use the most, the hex code, right? You can copy and paste that. If you work for a company, they will have these for you. Ask your IT team or ask your marketing team, and they will know your colors. And you can choose what color represents your call to action banner down here, your call to action button. All these buttons are going to be wrapped around that coloring. And then you can decide, what do I want in my header? Here's where you're going to personalize that text. Here's where you're going to personalize that link on there, right? I'm literally just scrolling down. I'm not going anywhere fancy to find these options. Now, the cool part, the one thing I do want to draw your attention to is a lot of this info, once we get into the contact info, is going to pull from your profile. So whatever you have put in your profile in BombBomb, and if you have not done that, hover over your name and there's a big orange button here that says edit my profile. That's how you can always access that. You'll be able to pick, do I want my phone number on there? Yep, I'll toggle that on. Do I want my email address? Yep, you get to pick some of these things that we want on there. Now, I know a lot of you guys work in industries as well that have very specific things you need on there, like disclaimers or license numbers. If you work in the financial industry, if you work in the mortgage industry, you can now have all of that on here. It's really, really cool. It opens up so many opportunities to make sure that you're having the things you need on there, and you don't need to think about it every time I send an email or every time I send a video, right? Now it automatically pulls all of that from your profile as well. So once you've done that, the number one thing I don't want you to forget, make sure you click the save button. If you do not do that, it will lose all of the changes you've made. I've unfortunately learned that the hard way a time or two in my days, so I don't want you to do that. So just make sure you click that. And what's cool is, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Alicia, but I believe this video page is retroactive to every video that you have in your account, correct? Even if you recorded a video previously, will it still show up when they play that?
I am not sure about that. I might need to double check on that.
Okay, we'll double check to figure out.
I feel like you're correct on that it is retroactively, because it's where all of your videos are going to live now. We have people in the chat saying that they're setting it up while you're talking and that it's so easy. So love to hear that. Yeah,
that's exactly what we want to hear. So just keep that in mind. This is a piece that is going to be directly helpful with your appointment setting. Put your calendar link in the top corner, put your contact info, all the things we kind of covered with that specifically. I want to show you guys one last quote, and then we'll make sure to give some time for the last couple of minutes here for Q&A. I saw this from Thomas Edison. Who's better to learn from than one of the greatest inventors of our times, right? But I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. I think this is so important when you're doing any of this kind of stuff. When you're reaching out, doing cold reach outs, even responding to inbound leads. the amount of times I have screwed that process up, that's okay. I'm just learning ways. You're going to continue to build this process. So don't feel like you have to have it perfect now. You're going to learn. Hey, I sent this to somebody. Did they like it? Did they not? Great. I'm going to send that to the next person. Allow yourself to learn, allow yourself to grow throughout this process. And I love that all of you, or not all of you, a number of you are already doing this. Our call to action from this one, we want you to go build that video page. Do this now. Let it start working for you. Let it start helping your process in not just setting more appointments, but all of the videos. We want to make sure that you get the best engagement you possibly can. And this is just another way that we get to help you there. So that is the bulk of the content. Thank you all for attending here. Alicia, have you scrolled through the Q&A or the chat? Are there any big questions we want to try and answer as well? Before we jump off here?
Questions. There's definitely been questions about virtual backgrounds, wanting to know if these are in the work and filters and all of that. I will tell you that there are things in the works. I will tell you that there are definitely things in the works. Listen, we listen to our customers. We hear you guys. We know that this is a big deal. It's definitely something that there's conversation and action about. I will tell you from a digital background. I can't imagine that BombBomb is ever going to add filters. I can tell you that. Maybe we'll shift away from that, but the goal of this kind of video is to be more human in your communication, right? To be an authentic human being so that the person on that other side of the video feels like they can connect with you. And having filters that change our humanity because of some standard that's external doesn't necessarily help you be more human. So
you don't think it makes me more human if I have little baby deer ears?
So that was one of the questions. We got a great question about SMS, and they wanted to know if we're exploring it. You can absolutely text your BombBomb videos. Now, we don't allow mass texting, but mass texting is bad business anyway. I'm just telling you, mass texting is not going to benefit your business. But you have a few different options. You have the mobile app, which will let you text your videos. If you are using a CRM that has texting functionality, you can use the Chrome extension to take your video link. You're going to copy link and not copy for email. You're going to copy link and put that into the texting functionality on your CRM, as well as the BombBomb keyboard, okay? If you are not aware of the BombBomb keyboard is going to give you access to all of your BombBomb videos from any of your connected apps. For example, from your texting, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp. I saw a question in there about WhatsApp. That BombBomb keyboard is going to let you put a video into your text message or WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or any of those. So you do have other options than just email. The texting functionality is already there. And just as a reminder, if we've mentioned something, whether it was your CTA or whether it's the Google Chrome extension that I just mentioned, or the BombBomb keyboard, you want to go to our support site, support.bombbomb.com, and you can just look these up. You can look for keyboard. Kevin just put a blog post in there in the chat for you as well, so you can copy that. But those resources are available to you at support.bombbomb.com. Great place to check those out. Let's see.
I'm not seeing anything else major. I think we've been able to cover most of this stuff. Everybody, we will be sending a recording out of this as well. I know that's a question we get all the time. So know that you will be able to review any of this information that we've talked about. That'll be coming in the next couple of days. So keep your eyes open for that sort of stuff. Thank you for spending this time with us. We know sometimes we get really technical. Sometimes we say a little bit more high level. Hopefully there was a nugget or two in there that is going to help you moving forward and help you set more appointments. Use video, use the call to actions, use your video page, use those tools that you have within BombBomb. They will help, right? They're going to help you build that relationship and that trust. So thank you all so much. As always, just to reiterate what Alicia said, support.bombbomb.com. It's an amazing support site. You can even send in a support ticket if you need to, but we value you guys so much. We appreciate you. Aaron, thank you for helping with all the chats. Clarissa, thank you for being here with us. You brought so much expertise and knowledge. We can't thank you enough. To all of you that are out there, we love you. We appreciate you. Thanks for being part of the BombBomb family, and we'll see you next month sometime. Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
guys.